Hello and welcome to Tullahoma's Cooking. I'm your host, Kelly Lepchinsky, and of course I have my handy dandy helper here today, Chris Barstad. I'm going to be putting him to work today as we make some spicy fish tacos. Now we're doing this because as we're recording, we're in the middle of Lent, and of course Fridays come up, once a week for a couple weeks there. And part of Lent is not eating the flesh of warm-blooded animals. Fish get a pass by being cold-blooded. Now, you could eat just a vegetarian meal, but a lot of people like something a little bit meaty, and that's how fish became the popular thing for Lent. Now, we've got 3 stages to what we're going to make today. We're going to make the tilapia. That's the white fish I've chosen. You can choose whatever white fish you prefer for this. That will be a spicy fish at the end. We're going to put it on a taco with some slaw, and we're going to drizzle that slaw with a lime crema. And we're going to start with that because we want to get that done and chilling, and we want to do the fish last so it's still warm when we eat our tacos. So let's start with that lime crema, and here's where I'm going to put you to work because I've got the recipe right over here. I have done a little bit of pre-measuring. So this is the bowl you're going to mix in, and I need you to mix this 1/4 cup of sour cream.
All right, use a spoon, or do I need to use this?
Oh, whichever you prefer.
I actually prefer the spatula myself. Now in here, we already have some stuff.
Now that's actually sour cream with chives, which I picked up on accident, but that's okay because we've got green onions going into this mixture later anyway, so all good. Now as I mentioned, that's a 1/4 cup of sour cream. The next thing that will go into our crema will be 3 tablespoons of mayonnaise. Now, I am not a great big mayonnaise fan myself, but I know a lot of you folks really have a preference. So yes, I did you a favor. We're using the Dukes today. I know that that's required in some of these southern households. Now, we're going to take a lime, and I'm going to let you kind of cut that in half and juice it into there.
Okay.
Just we're going to add the juice of 1 lime into our crema here. Now, if we had a zester, we would also put some of that lime zest in there. That's just not something we are equipped with in this kitchen or even at home in my own kitchen. I don't do a lot of zesting.
I do have one in my house.
See, there you go. Just the fact I didn't have one, didn't think to ask ahead of time. But if you have a zester, if you're prone to zesting, add some zest into this crema. Absolutely will add.
And that's when you said we were making this, I was like, where's the zester at? And I know I use mine when I make a crema at home.
Okay. All right. Well, the next thing, once we've got that lime in there, the next thing we're going to do, it says 2
Both halves?
Yes. Let's go ahead and do it. Next thing it says is 2 tablespoons of cilantro. Now, you know from previous episodes that 2 tablespoons is not going to do it for me. Let me get those stems out of there. I am going to take all the cilantro I can take. So we're going to
Now, do you trim off your cilantro or just chop everything?
I'm going to chop everything. Actually, I'm going to have you chop everything, but I do take the just very woody, stemmy parts off. Other than that, you go right ahead and add that cilantro as soon as you're done with the lime.
And get a little bit more of this off of here. It's a thing.
All right. Now, if you don't like cilantro, I know a lot of people don't, you can leave this out. It's not going to affect your final product if you don't have cilantro. People who can really smell, to me, that's a wonderful woodsy smell. And if you're able to smell the cilantro, that's when cilantro tastes best to you. Those two are very linked with this particular, I don't know, is that an herb? But,
yes.
Okay, well there you go. So if you're not a super smeller and you don't get that smell from the cilantro, you might be one of the people that thinks that cilantro tastes like soap. Well, if it tastes like soap, you don't want it on your spicy taco. Leave it out. It's all okay.
Well, you like cilantro at my house.
Yeah, so it's my house cilantro is good stuff. All
rough
right,
cut or fine cut or?
Oh, rough cut's going to be fine. As soon as we've got that in there, we would add a 1/4 teaspoon. Now the recipe calls for kosher salt. That's another thing for a 1/4 teaspoon. You find those in boxes, great big boxes. For a 1/4 teaspoon, I didn't go out of my way to find kosher salt. Now the grain of your salt can make a difference. If you have it in your cabinet, you do want to use it. But I wasn't going to buy that big box for this purpose. So we're just putting in regular old granulated table salt in our crema, and then we're going to mix that up really good so that we can chill it.
Yeah.
You starting to smell that a little bit?
Oh, I smelled it when I was chopping it. I'm a fan. And I like the fact that sometimes I'll even marinate my fish in the lime juice before I go farther. So I've been known to do that before, especially if I'm doing something with a citrus base to it.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's orange, I might get an extra orange and soak my fish in that beforehand. Just a little bit of extra, just little things that I do.
Okay, that looks well enough incorporated to chill for the next half hour. We're going to move on to the cabbage slaw. Let's go ahead and throw that in the fridge. Now, we want those flavors to come together and meld and be nice and chilled, because we're going to have a spicy taco, so that nice, bright, cilantro-y, limey, cold crema is going to be a nice thing to have. Now, the next thing that we're going to work on is the slaw that we're going to put our fish onto, which basically right now is going to be shredding the cabbage and adding in some green onion. Now, you've seen me do that before. I just like to pull my green onions right there. Wherever they let go, then they're done. That part you don't need. All the flavor is the white part. That's the onion. The green part's more for show. So if you're getting rid of what breaks off, you're only getting rid of parts that you might cut later and sprinkle on top. Now, the recipe only calls for 2 onions, just like with cilantro. Yeah. I am a fan of the green onion. Cut as many as you feel froggy enough to do.
Thin?
Oh, yeah, let's do somewhat thin.
Or as thin as
and these are going to go, once you've got those cut up, they're going to go in here, because we're going to toss them with the cabbage once we've got that nice and shredded.
I'll move that over here a little bit closer to me. I'm getting little wheels all over the place. Now, how far down into the green do you go, or do you just use all of it?
Go use all of it. Go for it. We love it.
That's what I do myself, but not my recipe. So
now, while he is chopping, I'm going to put together what we sort of drizzle over the cabbage and the onion. So I'm going to put together our 3 tablespoons of white distilled vinegar. I've already measured that out, but it's our regular old white distilled vinegar. I'm going to throw that in here. Then I'm going to take a tablespoon, I'm sorry, is that right? Teaspoon? No, don't do a tablespoon. This is salt. Do not do a tablespoon. 1 teaspoon. Again, this would be kosher salt if you have it. For us right now, that is just our regular old Morton's salt. And then 2 tablespoons of white sugar, which in fact is what I just poured in. So it's the salt that I actually need now. Let me run into the cabinet while you're chopping. All right, so the sugar was 2 teaspoons. We need 1 teaspoon of the salt, as I mentioned. And I'm going to go ahead and measure that not over what I'm actually mixing, just in case you spill over. You want that to catch somewhere else, not get into your recipe. So I just poured it over another one of these ramekins, the one we just emptied the sugar out of. And now I've got the teaspoon to go into our drizzle. So that was 3 tablespoons distilled white vinegar, 1 teaspoon of kosher salt, 2 teaspoons of white sugar, and you're just going to whisk that together until it's fully dissolved, which doesn't take very long. Sugar and salt in vinegar doesn't take very long. Now, we need to shred 4 cups of the cabbage, and that's why I have this right here. This actually will measure 4 cups. This is for drizzling onto afterwards, but if we're going to use this 4-cup measurement for our shredded cabbage, I'm going to go ahead and drizzle it over our onions. We can measure our cabbage in this, and the reason I did this in Tupperware is because we can put a lid on it, shake it up, and instead of drizzling it over the cabbage, we'll just mix the cabbage into it. Now, the one thing you want to be sure of with cabbage as well, I'm sure Chris knows, but we'll make sure you know as well, is you always want to get away from that core. Let's look at this one where there's a lot of it.
Yeah.
This core, this part of your cabbage, is bitter, very bitter. So you really don't want that in anything that you're chopping. Get rid of as much of that as you can. Just take from the outside. And because this will be the slaw that's going on your tortilla, You want to go ahead and make these nice fine slices. You can see he's already doing that, so that you can sort of pick it. You can buy shredded cabbage. You can buy that coleslaw
All
mix.
That's what I'll do a lot of times when I'm doing something like this.
Now, of course, if you watched our episodes previously, you know we've got a million uses for cabbage in this kitchen. So there was no reason not to go ahead and go to fresh, because whatever we don't use, whatever's more than the 4 cups of that cup, measuring cup right there, we can use. We can make a haluski, we can make a gawumpki, we can make all kinds of things that you've already seen. So we love our cabbage around here.
Make a pseudo sauerkraut.
There you go. So
I'm doing that sometimes. I like my striped cabbage a little bit more on the small side. That's just
sure thing. Whatever you like. And again, you know, the Queen's not coming. She's definitely not coming now. But the royalty is not coming to your house to eat. Whatever size, bite size you prefer, do it that way. We're just telling you what the recipe says. You do what makes you happy in your kitchen. That's it. Cooking is art.
And it's a lot of self-interpretation. You know, if you like, oh, I don't like as much of that particular seasoning or something, fine. Put something in there you do like better. If you don't want to use cayenne pepper, use sriracha pepper.
Yeah.
Who cares? You know, I mean, it's just one of those deals where, well, don't worry about what it exactly says. Now, maybe the first time you make it, follow the recipe. But after that, yeah, have fun, go crazy.
You know, I think I've said it before. If you ever look up a recipe online that allows comments, most of those comments are going to be, this is great, but I changed A, I changed B, I changed C. You barely even recognize the recipe anymore, but they still really enjoyed whatever it was that they made because they knew what they liked in their own household. All right, that's enough. Let's go ahead and throw that in on top of those green onions.
There we go.
And because I've already put the liquid in there, I'm going to hand you the lid.
Let me throw a little bit more of that in
All
there.
right.
And so we're going to toss
And you're just going to toss it. Just give us that, that little topping there to make our slaw just a little bit tangy. It was just very slightly sweetened and salted vinegar.
Put it in there to stay chilled, or?
Well, I don't see why not. The recipe doesn't call for that to be chilled, but let it keep.
See, I like mine to be nice and crispy.
And there you go. So we've got our crema done. We've got our slaw done. So of course, the next thing we're going to have to do is cook some fish. We'll do that right after this commercial break.
My name is J.T. Northcutt. I have sickle cell anemia trait, and several members of my family have sickle cell anemia disease. People with sickle cell disease have sickle cell-shaped blood cells which cause less oxygen to flow through their body. This can make people tired and experience painful symptoms. Blood transfusions are critical. They may struggle to find matches that are genetically similar to them, so that is why it is so important to have a diverse blood supply. And we're asking for your help today.
Welcome back to Tullahoma's Cooking. Once again, today we are doing a spicy fish taco. Now, in the first segment, you saw that we already put together our lime crema, which will go on top of our cabbage slaw, which we also did in the first segment. It'll all get assembled on a tortilla on top of our spicy fish, which is what we have to do now. Now, we've got a tablespoon of oil already up to heat. We've actually kept it on low for a minute, so we're going to turn it up to heat now. And Chris, what I'm going to ask you to do is take those tilapia fillets. What he's got right there is 1 pound. We'll cook a second pound in the next commercial break and end up with 2 pounds of fish at the end of this. But you don't need to watch us go through this twice. You do want to do it You don't want to crowd the fish, so we do want to do it a pound at a time. We're going to put a little salt and pepper on the fish before it goes in. Now, a little thing that I like to do here, I like to make them bite-sized to go into the fish tacos. It also sort of stretches them out a little bit more so you can feed a few more people if you make them bite-sized. And it's easier to cut them while they're still cool from the refrigerator than it is once they've come hot out of the pan. So once we've got them salted and peppered, I'm going to have him cut these into some bite-sized cubes before they go into the heat. In fact, before they go into heat, we also have to do the spicy element. But I'm going to let him cut up these fish before we get into the seasoning.
And as I cut them up, I'm going to put them in the plastic container there.
Okay.
So that way, my method of cutting back size with specifically tilapia is I just kind of cut everything cut it into halves and then quarter it. And then,
no, actually, we can speed this up a little bit. I'm going to grab, I know you're going to put that in there, but I'm going to take this right now. This is not a spot that's hot, so he can reach it to put in his fish as he's got it cut, and I can reach in to tell you what kind of spices we've got. So we have right here, this is 2 teaspoons of paprika. This is something he's going to toss those fish into. This is cayenne powder, red cayenne powder. This is about a half a teaspoon right there. We have, oh, let me remember what this is. I think this is just garlic salt. Yes, garlic powder, that's right. 1 teaspoon of garlic powder right there. And then this is cumin, and this is a teaspoon of cumin. So that should be very aromatic, and here comes some fish. So they've already got some salt and pepper on them. We're putting them now into all of that seasoning I just threw in there. Cayenne, paprika, cumin, and garlic. So if you're familiar with those, you know there's a very nice smell happening here, and that'll give it just enough spice to make that lime crema really zing and pop. So we're on to the second fish fillet now. A little salt and pepper there before you chop that up. You know, I've never been a big fish fan till very, very recently. I discovered that I could handle the white fishes more than the pink fishes. And I've only recently discovered salmon's not half bad either. Shout out to the seafood place. If you've ever been there, if you like your seafood, they do it really well, and they bring it in from the coast every week. So the salmon bites there really turned me around on whether I thought I would like. We got a little bit of steam happening there. Hope you enjoyed that. We just want to take that lid off before it captures all of that. All right. As you know, we always have to sort of figure out this particular cooktop. It's always a lot of fun in this kitchen.
that's what I'm actually getting ready to get a new cooktop at my house. The one I have is approximately 60 years old.
Yeah, that's a good lifespan. It tells you it was made before some of the things on the market today.
Well, GE is what made me think, it's an old school General Electric cooktop. So
now it looks here like this pan is a good nonstick pan regardless of our oil, because the oil is just puddling around it. So that ought to be good and fine for cooking our fish. But you do want that little flavor, even if it doesn't help it not stick to the pan, you do want it to help encrust those seasonings onto your fish. So we'll want to make sure it gets coated while the fish go in there.
now, what kind of oil are we using, Kelly?
This is just canola oil. I don't really know that it would make any big difference if you used vegetable oil. I've used them interchangeably myself at home. I've yet to find a recipe where it really mattered.
Yeah, I'm a fan of vegetable and sunflower oil myself.
I used avocado oil very briefly, and I was a fan of that, but it goes rancid much quicker than some of your other oils, so you have to be careful about that. I mean, the shelf life of vegetable oil or canola oil just seems indefinite. You're going to run out of it before
it goes bad.
Yeah.
I've got some that I know I've used that was a couple of years old.
All right, so here we go. We're going to toss it for that seasoning.
go.
And it's good and coated, so we're going to throw it into medium-high heat. The pan should be on medium-high heat. And they're small chunks.
We're using this for that?
Yeah. They're small chunks of a delicate fish, so it shouldn't take long. If they were full fillets, it might take 3 minutes a side. So what you really look for, although it was a white fish, you could see pinkish white, a fleshy white. You're looking for it to become white like a chicken, like a chicken breast. Now we have coated it with seasoning, but you can already see, I know we've got a camera on, you can already see some of that getting
starting to brown.
Yeah, I'm actually even going to turn this down just a hair there because it's going just a bit fast in this kitchen. And what you're just looking is to get all the pieces cooked through. I'm going to grab us a plate to put them on as they come off there. Some pieces may cook more quickly than others. And really that's all you've got to do. You're just waiting for each piece to come completely cooked. As I mentioned, we've got another pound to season and cook. So we will do that right after this. We'll take one more commercial break.
This is your internet service at 10 meg speeds. This is internet service at gigabit. No other local provider can match this level of speed. Call us today to get the world's fastest internet.
And we're back. Tullahoma's cooking. We are making our spicy fish tacos. We have completed both pounds of tilapia. You can see I've got this one just coming off the heat right now. I'm going to put all that delicious fish right here so it stops sizzling and we can talk to you. And then we're going to assemble our fish tacos. So before we do that, we want a little bit of avocado here on the side. I'm sure you've seen us cut avocados before, but don't forget there's a great big pit right there in the middle. You just want to go around that little side turn there, catch a spoon, and go right under that skin to grab your avocado. Oh, delicious, lovely. I'm going to do that on both sides so that we can have some slices for all parties. And I did that a little fast. You could do it a little bit neater than that, but hey, leftover avocado. Nobody's complaining. All right, and we're going to put a couple slices here on each plate. All right. And then you can let everybody assemble their own. And now we don't have a lot of things to choose from here. I'm going to get that off my fingers real quick. So, Chris, I'll let you assemble first. Get yourself some slaw, some fish, and some crema.
All righty. I'm just going to use my hand kind of on the fish a little bit.
Now in this case, I have just used flour tortillas. If you prefer corn, go for corn. I like the street taco element of a good soft flour tortilla. I'm just a flour tortilla fan in general.
Oh, for sure. We'll get the creamer.
All right, now, if you'll give me just a second to assemble mine, we can have a little taste test
There we
here.
go.
Thank you. All right, make sure that that cabbage is good and tossed with your little tangy bit of vinegar that went in there. I like to put mine down first and get the fish on top of it. I'll use that tongue for my fish here. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yummy white fish. Looking so good. Looking so spicy.
Oh, yes.
And then to cool it down a little bit, we have our sour cream and mayonnaise with green onion. There you go. Lime. All right. Looking good, Chris. You ready to try it?
For sure.
Thank you for being my cooking helper there today. Let's see what we've got. Even for soft tacos, they seem a bit large for the task. Season to taste. Add your more or less crema as you desire. For me, we really did a lot of the spices. We actually put the full 2 pounds worth of spices onto the first pound of fish. If you didn't catch that, make sure that when you're doing your 2 pounds, all those ingredients that I gave you, all those lists of how much spice to use, it evened out. We did 2 pounds of fish, but those teaspoons that we told you really need to go over 2 pounds. So it's very spicy. You could probably put a little more crema on it. I'm actually kind of digging the spice. I'm actually good with that. But there it is. Easy peasy. I mean, that took almost no time at all. Didn't leave a lot of mess, and you've got leftovers you can use for.
And that's one thing I would like to add is I'm not missing. I don't think you'd want to double the amount of spice on both pounds, but I think putting half again as much for each pound would be a good thing, because this is to me it's a proper amount of bite.
Yeah, it's got good bite. And again, it had cayenne and paprika, and that's why we really have all these nice and light, and of course avocado right there. Well, there you go, spicy fish tacos. We hope you get a chance to make this. We're going to share this around the office, and we'll see you next time that we do a Tullahoma's Cooking.
See you next time.